Now we are going to repeat kind of the wash idea all the way across your paper. Let's start with our sky and then work our way down to the grass. I'm going to use kind of like a sky blue color. It says here, I guess it says metallic blue, so it has a little bit of a shine to it. Oh my gosh, it's just so exciting. I love it. Anyhow, you're going to want like a flat here. You want this flat to be clean. You want it to be damp. And you're going to want some paint. Now, if you have wet tube paint like me, you're not going to need to swivel it around inside your area too much. You literally are just going to dab it with your brush and spread it. Dab and spread. Dab and spread. However, if you have or happen to have some dry paint or a palette cake, I call this a palette cake because it's on the palette and it's in the shape of a circular cake. If you have a dry palette cake, you might want to just add a little bit more water to kind of loosen that color up. But literally, we're doing a layer of water and strips of color on top of said water. And we're just sliding it across our page. I'm doing some varied streaks of color, like right here I have a really dark blue and I'm adding some dark blue over here to kind of give my sky a realistic three-dimensional feel to its surface. Skies aren't usually all one solid color. Sometimes they are, but very rarely. Sometimes you got like little streaks of clouds running across the background of your sky. Sometimes you got big fluffy blobs of white. And then sometimes you might have a little bits of color, of different color in there, different streaks of blue. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm breaking up my color so I can have a very interesting sky. Now, when I get close to my barn, I am going to go super careful and super slow around my barn shape. I don't want any of that red to bleed into my sky. So what I might do is I might pick up my paintbrush and drag the color to the edge of my silo here. See how I'm slowing down a little bit? I don't want to risk bleeding that into my sky. I don't want red in my sky. I'm not doing a sunset. If I was doing a sunset, I probably wouldn't care as much. But I'm not doing a sunset. I'm doing a blue sky. Now, if you want, there are several different things that you can do to get the clouds in there. If you want, you can like take, let's see what we got here. You can take a cloth and kind of dab it with water and pick up that extra paint to kind of get those soft swirly clouds. It's not working well on mine because my paint has already dried. You could also kind of use like a dry on dry technique. And what I mean by that, my paper is mostly dry here because I was very, very careful with the amount of water I used. But anyway, you could go back and you can like scratch in some darker blue to kind of create a cloud shape with your lighter blue in the middle. Totally up to you, your art, your choice. But these are different ways that you can create clouds. You can use the lift technique. You could use this dry on dry technique where you're layering your blue and creating different layers of blue. Like this darker blue is like the actual sky and the lighter blue is kind of like those really streaky skies. Totally up to you though. Don't ever feel like you have to do exactly what I'm doing. This is your art, your choice. So I have my sky done. Now it's time to bebop into my grass. Okay, so now that we're done doing our silo, our barn, our sky, let's work from top to bottom with our grass. I'm not going to worry about doing the drag and pull technique that we did with our silo and barn because I am way back in the background here and it shouldn't be like a really strong definition between sky and ground here. Because we're moving so further back into space, it shouldn't be a strong definition. So I'm going to use a wash. A wash is literally diluting the color of your paint or washing it out with water. So I got a bunch of paint on my brush right now, right? Well, I'm going to add some extra water to my brush. I'm just testing to make sure that my water isn't like super wet. If it's super wet, it might go everywhere. So I'm just making sure that I am dabbing off the excess water, and now I'm going to start from this edge and move over. As you get closer to your hair, if you've decided to use the brown cow with the fluff, you are going to want to carve your way in and out of these fluffy openings, and you're going to want to move nice and slow. Use the corner of your brush to kind of chisel your way in and out of these curvy little shapes here, because you don't want green boogers inside your cow's hairdo. It's not cool. So just take your time. But the main goal here is we're kind of feathering out and smoothing out these dots of color with a damp brush. You might have to water bug your paintbrush to the surface of your cup to kind of re-liquefy your brush's ability to spread this color around. So just keep that in mind. Just go slow, take a small amount at a time. And you don't have to do dots. You can do just a regular wash where you add a strip of color and then add a strip of water and then a strip of color. Totally up to you. The main goal here is we're literally using a wash to quickly block in this green here. Doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you have a wash in your background here, and then go for it. I'm going to pick up some of this paint back here. I don't want my color to be as vibrant up here. I probably should have thought of that when I put my dots down, but I didn't. So here we are. If your color is too strong in some areas, just pick some of it up and put it somewhere else, right? Okay, let's continue this. This is the other way to do washes. You got a streak of water or a layer of water, right? And then a few dots of paint on top. Totally up to you. Your art, your choice. Kind of want this hill to be darker than that hill though. So I am going to intensify my wash by adding an additional drop of green. I really want these to kind of separate. Just be careful about this edge here. You don't want that brown bleeding in, because remember, watercolor can be reignited. When I mean reignited, it can be reactivated, like it can come back to life. It's like a little zombie. You put a little water on it. It's like, I'm alive! You just really want to be super careful because you don't want that brown paint to go, I'm alive! And start jumping into your grass, because that's not really cool. So that, my friend, is how you can easily do grass and the sky using washes. Let's give this a rest. Our stuff up here should be dry, so that way we can start working on our roof and the details of our silo. All right, friends, while our grass dries, we're going to go back to the top again, and we're going to work from top to bottom to get this roof in our silo. So I want my roof to be black. So I am going to tap off all the extra water here. Yes, my paint is kind of nasty. Yes, my water cup is kind of nasty looking right now. That is okay. We're going to rinse that off before we start working on the pink parts of this area. I probably should have done the pink parts while we did the red, but I didn't really think about it. So I am going to add a decent amount of paint to my brush with a little bit of water, kind of like towel dry damp. And I'm literally going to feather in by going at a diagonal. I'm going to feather in my roof. Notice how I am moving my brush up and down as if I were using a pencil. You know how you shade in the roof, you go at a diagonal hatch. I'm doing this because you can see my brush strokes. It's really going to help me. My brush strokes are really going to help me add texture to my roof. I want my roof to kind of look, well, like a roof, like it's moving in the direction in which shingles would go. And shingles are usually placed and lined up in a diagonal fashion. Alright, so I'm going to be super careful with this area. I don't want this to be super black, so I'm going to clean up my brush. And I'm literally feathering out my faint outline, and I'm feathering it into the cap of my silo. See that? Ooh, excuse me. Allergies. Really bad, you guys. And I'm going to let that dry. I might add just a little bit of shadow here. But I really want that to dry because I am actually, once everything's dry, I'm going to go over it with pen. I am going to add a black opening here and some windows to shine into the abyss of my barn. And I want them to be pretty decently strong, so I'm going to add a little bit more black here. See how I did that? I'm only adding black in this corner, and you're going to kind of start seeing a three-dimensional effect here. I'm dabbing some black in the corners, the top left-hand corners of my barn, to kind of give it kind of like a shadowy effect. Alright, it's time now to clean out my brushes, to clean out my cup, and we'll revisit with a clean cup of water for our nose and our ears. So I have a clean, damp brush here, right? No paint. I am going to start reigniting some of this color here on the ear. And I might even add just a few dots. Same thing on here. Not a lot of water, just enough to wake up that brown a little bit. I'm alive! It looks like he has cowpox. Anyway, tap off that extra water and spread. Go really light.